and welcome. I'm Astrid Vinique, Astrid Weaver, spinner, and garment designer. Today I'm here to share with you the third episode to my three-part series on budget-friendly ways to get into weaving. I'll share the first and second episode in the description below. I talk about rigid heddle looms and pin looms. So, this episode we're talking about all kinds of resources, and the first is a few online courses that I suggest you take. So, number one is Jane Stafford Textiles. She is incredible. Her episodes do mostly focus on floor loom weaving, but a lot about introduction, getting into weaving, and you can learn so much from her. She has so much content and so much to do with that from beginning to an experienced weaver. And second, I'd suggest Kelly Casanova. Kelly Casanova has a lot of lessons on rigid heddle looms, and she has some table loom and floor loom courses as well, but she has an incredible variety of classes and so many things for you to take there. So I started by learning with Kelly Casanova, and I started with her Rigid Heddle Bootcamp, and I took just about every class she had. She has tons of patterns available that you can work off of for everything. I've taken her table loom class, I've even looked at her floor loom class. I've taken everything, and once you get a membership, you have access to everything that you can look at all her classes as they come out, and that's incredible. And once I had taken just about everything from Kelly, I then discovered Jane, and Jane Stafford has so many lessons. Next is local guilds. So some are more active than others and larger. The one that's nearby me here in Austin is the Weavers and Spinners Society of Austin, and they are incredible. They have equipment loans where they have floor looms and spinning supplies and all kinds of things that you can go in there. They have libraries and monthly meetings on a bunch of topics. Local guilds can just be incredible. The weaving community is so welcoming, and local guilds, everyone shares their knowledge, and you can learn so much from each individual weaver, since some of them have been weaving for years, and there's just so much knowledge to absorb from all of those members. I'll give you a great example. When I was first learning to read drafts, a member helped me read this polka dot draft that is Turn-to-Ket that was in a handwoven magazine one time, which is also a great resource, by the way. And she just taught me all the different ways that it functions and how this affects that, and it's very helpful to learn from people. There's also regional and national guilds. So here in Texas, and this is, I'm just referring to the US because I'm in the US, but if you're not in the US, online guilds become more critical, so maybe Jane Stafford or Kelly Casanova more become your thing. So in Texas here we have CHT, which is the Contemporary Handweavers of Texas, and they hold a biennial conference, and that is huge. Tons of guilds come together, and each year, or each time one of the fiber festivals is hosted, a different guild hosts the fiber festival. And so it's really fun to see what all the different guilds do, and it's just incredible to go see there. And I mentioned national guilds. National guilds, there is the Handweavers Guild of America, and they also hold a biennial conference, and they hold Convergence, which next year will be in Knoxville, Tennessee. Of course, some of these guilds haven't been doing much over the pandemic, but a lot of fiber festivals and things are coming back and starting to happen more, and some did do some over Facebook or something online, but it depends on where you are and what the guild decides to do because of the pandemic. And the National Guild here in the US is constantly holding events on their Facebook or online. They hold Textiles and Tea every week where they bring on a guest and talk to them about what they do, and you can learn so much from them as well. They also held a Careers in Textile Symposium a little while ago, and where they bring people who are in the fiber arts industry, and you can hear what they have to say about different things. They talk about different opportunities in the fiber world, and there is so much that you can learn from them. They also did Weaving and Spinning Week. They are constantly running events, and you can really, if you're always present on their page and you keep an eye on what they're doing, you will always find something that will interest you and somewhere that you can learn. Next up is fiber fairs, and fiber fairs are fantastic. You can learn so much. They're between the classes, vendor hall, and even competitions. There is a huge variety of classes that people will teach where you can go and learn so many different things. And everyone who's teaching there and who's teaching these courses, they teach a large variety of things oftentimes, and you can go and no matter what you're interested in, there's oftentimes something to learn there. And you'll also find that even if you're not a fan of maybe entering in competitions, still go and look at what people are submitting. Because even if it's not quite your thing, if you experience everything, then you'll learn something different from everywhere you go. For example, some fiber festivals that I've been to are SAF, which is Southeastern Animal Fiber Festival, and there I entered a crochet thing and some hand spun yarn. And again, competitions, you get feedback from them that maybe you wouldn't get from somewhere else. And I also learned to spin at Carolina Fiber Festival, which was also in North Carolina. And there I learned to spin from someone who raises Shetland sheep. And there was also a class there on drop spindles. And you can just, like I said, there's a huge variety of classes oftentimes, but all of them will fit your interest in some way, shape, or form. Some fiber festivals that every fiber artist would love to go to is Maryland Sheep and Wool, which is big. They have a sheep to shawl competition, which is where a team of fiber artists takes a fleece and turns it into a shawl in just a number of hours, and it's incredible to go and watch that. And another is Rhinebeck Sheep and Wool, which is in upstate New York, and there's a large variety of vendors there, and if you go, it's just one of the biggest ones that everyone's always talking about. There's also a ton of Facebook groups. If you just search the field that you're looking for, like spinning or weaving or 8-shaft, there's usually a group for that, and there's even groups for equipment where you can check out used equipment if you wanted to look at that. There's also sometimes stuff on Marketplace as well. Facebook is incredible for that kind of thing. A lot of the Facebook groups too will give you great project inspiration. People are always posting their finished projects and things, and it is so cool to go and see a variety of things. And you can even think to yourself, maybe, these are my favorite colors, and if you just apply them in this way, that they would be super fun in that way. One thing that I would 100% suggest when it comes to used looms, or any loom when it comes to a big purchase, is try it before you buy it. Even spinning wheels too. You have to see how the loom works with your body type and with your techniques and with everything that you like to do when it comes to your weaving. For me, sometimes I'm really small, so that can affect it. When I was trying to find my first spinning wheel, I tried a ton of different spinning wheels. Sometimes during guild meetings, I would go and try out a bunch of different wheels that all the guild members had, and I could see how they worked, how I like to spin on them, and if they suit my spinning techniques and everything that I like to do when it comes to that. So that's why I always suggest you try them before you buy them. This loom that's sitting next to me right here, this is an Ashford Jack loom, and I absolutely love this loom, but it was very difficult to find this loom that someone had. I knew some people that did have it, but they weren't in town. It was very difficult to find it. Because it's such a big purchase, I say you want to sit at the loom first and at least get a feel for it. Oftentimes it's such a big purchase that you do want to see it in person before you actually decide to make that big purchase. So I ended up having to go to Eugene Textile Center, which is in Eugene, Oregon, and they're a fantastic center for used looms. And generally weaving supplies. They have a big book library and tons of used looms that you can go and you can just get a feel for the loom before you actually buy the loom, which I always suggest you try. And lastly, which this shouldn't surprise you since I'm homeschooled and most homeschoolers love local libraries, but yes, it is the library. I libraries are fantastic. You can just go and you can check out a book and just maybe if there's a project you want to do that you know is in there, and you can just look through. The other thing I would totally suggest is interlibrary loans. I have needed a few books now that are out of print or just really difficult to find, and you don't want to spend the money because some weaving books can be expensive, is interlibrary loans. So I was one time looking for a book on Echo Weave by Marian Stubenensky, and it was impossible to find. I ended up having to interlibrary loan it from Montana, but of course I could get it from there, and I didn't end up having to spend the money on getting the book, and I was able to find the draft that I needed to work with. And another one is 100 Pinloom Squares. This book I was also looking for quite a while, and I don't remember where I interlibrary loaned it from, but I had to get it from quite a ways, and then I was able to look through, and that was when I was actually learning about pinlooms, and so I was able to go through there and just get a feel for the pinlooms and a couple different techniques and patterns that you can do on it from there. So thanks for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed, and I hope this is enough resources. I know there's tons and tons of resources out there for weavers and new weavers, but I hope you enjoyed, and thanks for joining me.